It was deja vu all over again for the Islanders as they gave up 5 goals in the third period and fell to the New York Rangers in their second preseason game. We'll talk about why it matters and why it doesn't. All that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and it's great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. It feels awful. That's the only thing I'm going to say. It feels awful. The New York Islanders up 4-1 in their exhibition game against the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. And it all comes tumbling down in the final 6 minutes, giving up 5 goals in the final 6 minutes. And they lose to the Rangers by a score of 6-4. And look, let's begin at the beginning. I don't care about the 2 points, okay? October 10th, the Islanders will open their season against the Utah Hockey Club. And who won their second preseason game or any of the preseason games will not make a darn bit of difference to anybody. It really is one of those things where, you can make excuses all day long. The Rangers played more NHL caliber players than the Islanders did. The Islanders played 53 minutes of really solid hockey. You could say that, it's preseason. Who cares? And all of that is true. But psychologically, after the New York Islanders blew so many leads in the third period last year, both under Lane Lambert and under Patrick Waugh, when that happens again, let alone against your biggest rival, but again, not who wins these games is not important. The important thing is psychologically, emotionally, how do the New York Islanders and Patrick Waugh respond? And you could do the thing that a lot of fans did, and understandably so. It's here we go again, same old Islanders. Boy, we still can't hold a lead. And I totally get fans who are saying that. It makes sense because we've seen this story happen far too many times in recent years for the New York Islanders. But the key is not, oh my God, this happened. If it's going to happen, let it happen on September 24th, okay? Let it happen when the game doesn't count, and let it be a learning tool. Let it be a situation where Patrick Waugh yells at his team, and the paint peels off the Islanders' locker room. And I'll even take it a step further. If the New York Islanders practice tomorrow and there's no puck involved, that wouldn't bother me at all. Let there be no puck. Let there be, let it be like the movie Miracle, where Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks is just blowing that whistle again. This has to be the moment where Patrick Roy mentally and physically challenges the New York Islanders and says, we cannot let this be our identity. Not now, not ever. This cannot be our identity. This may have been our reputation a year ago, but this year, we're not going to let it happen. And this has got to be a teaching moment. It's got to be, you know what? A hockey game is 60 minutes long, sometimes longer if it goes to overtime, a little longer still if it goes to a shootout, but you cannot quit on a game, even a preseason game, until the final buzzer sounds and the game is over. Because the Islanders were up 4-1 and were cruising to a win. And, there's 6 minutes and 10 seconds left and you're up 4-1 and then you lose 6-4. You give up 5 goals. And yeah, okay. It's Henrik Tikkanen in goal. And no offense to Henrik Tikkanen, he's still learning. He's not an NHL goalie yet. Here's a guy who has looked good in rookie camp, has played well in limited reps in the AHL, did a lot more in the ECHL. He's a young goalie with a little potential, but is he NHL ready? Is he ready to handle the Chris Kreiders and the Adam Foxes and the Jacob Trubas of the world just yet? No. And he proved that tonight. Not that I think that all these goals were his fault, but at the end of the day, this is when you challenge him. Every day, as you know, we've been talking about, oh, wow, what a difference it can make for the New York Islanders to have Patrick Roy in training camp from day one. And you're right, it can make a big difference. But now is when you make that difference. After your team has an epic collapse in the third period of a game you should have won. This is when you basically skate or explain or just go and explain to your team that this is unacceptable and get it through their heads and make sure they know that this cannot happen when the games start to count. And, there were a lot of good things that came out of this game, and we're going to talk about that in our next segment. But I am glad, in a way, that this happened now, that this collapse did not happen in game 2 of the regular season, as opposed to here in the preseason when it doesn't really matter. So, let's see how Patrick Roy and the players on this team respond. They're back in action on Thursday night. Will the Islanders respond in a positive way when they hit the ice Thursday in Philadelphia? That's the big question. Will they be able to respond in a way that shows you that they are determined to get this kind of performance out of their systems once and for all? Will we see that? Will we see a difference between a team that made a habit last year out of blowing third period leads, whether it was, 1 goal, 2 goals. You can't let that happen. They did last night. It is time. It is time to put an end to the Islanders' reputation as being a team that cannot hold a lead, that cannot finish a game. And if that starts tonight, if that starts right now, this loss was worth it. But if it gets into this team's head now, again, where the same old team and the same old thing is going to happen to us again, it could be a really long season. And I don't want to see that happen. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We're going to break down some of the positives and some of the negatives. Anthony Duclair making his Islanders debut preseason, granted, but we'll talk about that. We will have our, highlights and lowlights of this game. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a winger who came up to the Islanders in the mid-'80s, just after the dynasty years, and was a part-time player with the team through the 89-90 season. Let's see if you can guess who this Prince Albert, Saskatchewan native was or is. We have that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And there's so much to bet on this time of year. Baseball season winding down, playoffs just ahead, college football, pro football in full swing. You've got basketball futures, you've got hockey preseason games and hockey futures. Check out all the latest odds on FanDuel. So again, to get your $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet, head on over to FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. There were some highlights to this game, as much as it stings afterwards to blow that kind of a lead. And the biggest highlight in my mind was the debut of Anthony Duclair and the way the line of Bo Horvat, Mathew Barzal, and Anthony Duclair looked in this game. Barzy had 2 goals. Horvat had a goal. Duclair had 2 helpers in this game, and the trio combined for 10 shots on goal. I like that. I like the way they showed chemistry, the passes that they made, the way they worked together. And believe me, this is their first preseason game. It's going to take time. It's got to develop over time, but this was a good first effort for Anthony Duclair, Mathew Barzal, and Bo Horvat as a unit. You scored 3 goals in your first game together. I love it. And I think Duclair's speed helped. This unit do have a little bit more to do with, creating a little time and space. Barzal was arguably the best player on the ice for either team for most of this game. Tied for the team lead with Liam Foudy with 5 shots on goal. Scored 2 of the Islanders' goals in this game. And just really, really looked strong. So that was good. Matt Martin drew a penalty. Played a little more than 15 minutes. He was a +2. And while I still don't think necessarily that he should make this team, I can't root against Matt Martin just because of who he is and the kind of person and player he's been. But I think he played well in this game. I think we saw Isaiah George, a +1 in this game. Looked nice out there in the 12 minutes and change that he was on the ice. That was a positive. Noah Dobson had an assist, but here's the thing I don't get, okay? Why, in the preseason, is Noah Dobson on the ice for 27 minutes? Yeah, he's out there on the power play. You want to give the power play some reps. He was even out there for more than a minute shorthanded. But why, oh, why is he playing that many minutes in a preseason game? Maybe 25, 24. I'd like it to be between 22 and 24 for a preseason game. But, come on. Hudson Fasching, I think, had some moments in this game. But overall, Semyon Varlamov looked good, did not allow a goal. And the Islanders, in the first 40 minutes of this game, kind of really shut the Rangers down, did not allow a lot of opportunities. And, the fact that you got a 30-minute shutout, essentially, from Semyon Varlamov, very encouraging indeed. Henrik Tikkanen obviously needs some work, but that's why he's out there. Is Henrik Tikkanen ready to play in the NHL? No, not yet. Do we think he was before this game? No. He just kind of reinforced that with his shaky performance. But there were problems in this game that need to be addressed as well. Officially, according to the NHL, first of all, let's start with this. 23 giveaways. 23 giveaways in this game. Too many. Can't have that. Got to clean that up. Did not like the Scott Mayfield knee-on-knee hit in the opening few minutes of the game. I give credit to Mayfield for dropping the gloves and defending himself. He kind of had no choice, but did not like that particular hit. He ends up with 7 minutes in penalties and is a -3 in this game. Pierre Engvall, -3. Didn't like that either. And I guess the other thing was, those goals at the end of the game. The Islanders' defense was standing still. They were not moving. They were just kind of, the Rangers were making some good cross-ice passes, and they just, the Islanders were standing still. Power play, don't get me started. Islanders 0 for 4 with the man advantage. Rangers scoring a power play goal in just 2 chances with the extra attacker. Again, small sample size, 2. But you let in a goal. And the penalty kill has got to be better this year. Critical. So how do you respond under those circumstances? You cannot allow this to be the normal. Okay? I love what I saw from the first line. I liked what Foodie did with the 5 shots on goal in only 10 minutes and 52 seconds. I thought that was encouraging. William Dufour only played 14 minutes, 21 seconds, but looked good. A few times he was noticeable on the ice. He had a couple of shots on goal. There were reasons to be encouraged if you were the New York Islanders. But again, it all falls apart at the end. And that was what was so frustrating and so discouraging. And cleaning this up is what has to be the next order of business. And I'll take it a step further. I don't care if the Islanders win their next preseason game on Thursday. They're going down to Philadelphia, and whether they win or lose doesn't matter. Play a solid 60 minutes. Win or lose, give me an honest, full effort. Finish the game the way you start it, and make sure you get the job done the right way. That, to me, is important more than anything else. Will we see that? Is it deja vu all over again for this Islanders team? I hope not, because they can't afford to fall back into that situation. All right. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. Congratulations to Islanders broadcaster and former player Thomas Hickey. We'll talk about his news, and no, it's not going to hurt the Islanders. We'll have that. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go find Locked On NHL, where the local experts keep you updated daily on all the biggest storylines ahead of the season. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So a little good news for Thomas Hickey. And I got to say, I'm happy about this. Amazon Prime in Canada now going to be broadcasting some games. And guess what? Thomas Hickey is going to be part of this broadcast team. And we will see how he does. It's going to be, John Forsland on play-by-play. Jody Shelley also going to be part of the team. Mark Messier and Shane Knighty also going to be doing, some work there. But we'll see. The good news is that you basically have Thomas Hickey, who really does deserve to get this honor. He has been so good. And really, he got good fast. So it's a Monday night event. The Islanders only have 6 Monday night games all year. So there will be some conflicts, no doubt about that, those 6 games. But it should not really change all that much for Hickey. I mean, he didn't do every game last year, even without this conflict. And so, if he's going to have 6 Islander games where he's not going to be part of the team, they brought in Matt Molson for a few games. Shannon Hogan is more than capable of doing her thing alone if she needs to. I'm sure MSG will be absolutely fine. By the way, if you're wondering, the Islanders broadcast team, which you didn't see in the first 2 preseason games, and you won't see them on Thursday because that's an NBC sports broadcast, but you will see the Islanders, Brandon Burke and Butch Goring, Shannon Hogan, Thomas Hickey. You will see them Friday. And, of course, you'll see them once the regular season starts as well. So congratulations to Thomas Hickey. Well-deserved. You get the feeling that, he is going to rise quickly in the world of hockey analysts. And look, if he's willing to wait until Butch Goring decides that, it's time for him to retire, and I'm not rushing Butchie. I love watching him do his thing. But Thomas Hickey probably going to be the next full-time color analyst for the Islanders if he's willing to wait for that position. If not, he's certainly good enough to do national work as Brandon Burke is, and we'll see. We'll see what the future holds, but I expect Hickey to stay with the Islanders broadcast team this year, except for those conflict games. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 60th birthday of former Islanders winger Dale Henry. Henry, drafted by the Isles in the 8th round back in 1983, had a 41-goal season for the Saskatoon Blades of the Western Hockey League, made his Islanders debut in 84-85, 16 games, 2 goals, 3 points, and was with the Islanders every year through the 89-90 season, but never played more than 48 games in a year. Now, he was physical. He was 6'1", 220, went over 100 penalty minutes that year in 87-88, 115 to be exact. Never played for a team in the NHL other than the Islanders, played in 132 NHL games, 13 goals, 39 points, 263 penalty minutes, scored a goal in 14 playoff games, and ended up going into coaching briefly as a player coach for a while, and then as a head coach, but kind of was replaced midseason when his team, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays of the CHL, struggled during the 2001-2002 season. One of Dale Henry's better games as an Islander, March 29th, 1988, Islanders hosting the Flyers in what was then a Patrick Division matchup. Mark LaForest, a.k.a. Trees, is the goalie for Philadelphia. Billy Smith in between the pipes for the Islanders. And with the game, Islanders trailing 3-2 after 2 periods, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Dale Henry, pots his 5th goal of the year. Randy Wood and Brent Sutter get the assist. That ties the game at 3. Jeff Norton gets a power play goal midway through the 3rd to put the Islanders ahead. And then Pat LaFontaine gets the clincher with 5.5 minutes left. Islanders go on to beat the Flyers by a score of 5-3. Dale Henry, our Islanders' birthday of the day, scores a goal on 2 shots. It was an even strength goal, and it tied the game and gave the Islanders the momentum they needed, scoring just a minute 24 into the 3rd. So Dale Henry is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers will be back tomorrow. We'll preview the preseason game against Philadelphia, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that are going on. How did the Islanders respond at practice on Wednesday? Hopefully, we'll be able to talk a little bit about that on tomorrow's show. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.